and welcome to the Giving Back to Gwinnett podcast. Each episode, we tackle community issues, tell stories that matter, and show how you can make a difference. Presented by the Gwinnett Coalition and the Community Foundation for Northeast Georgia, Giving Back to Gwinnett showcases the nonprofits and people making an impact in Gwinnett. I'm Heather Loveridge, founder of Magnolia Media Group and chief storyteller for the Community Foundation, and I'm your host. How many of us worry about where our next meal will come from? That's probably not something most of us worry about on any given day. But for some in Gwinnett, food insecurity is a constant issue. And that's what we're talking about today with Muriam Nafees, Volunteer Gwinnett Project Coordinator, Ryan Jones, Director of Community Development for the Neighborhood Co-op, and Faye Josephs, Founder and Executive Director of Mending the Gap. So welcome, Miriam, Faye, and Ryan, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be talking about this and getting some boots on the ground perspective. So let's just introduce everyone real quickly. Ryan, briefly tell us about the Neighborhood Co-op and your role there, and you've been there, 6 months now?
6 months.
6 months, yeah.
6 months.
All right.
Well, yes, I'm Ryan. I'm the Director of Community Development at Neighborhood Co-op. So what we do, we're the former Norcross Co-op. So we've been in the community for 30 years, changed the name a couple of years ago. And so we've been serving our neighbors in crisis in the southwest portion of the county for just about 30 years. So I consider us kind of the front lines of crisis. So when a family needs food, needs a place to stay, needs clothes, that moment where they're at their absolute moment of crisis, that's where we step in. My role is simply to tell our story, to be a voice for our community, to help to engage our nonprofit partners, business partners, our church partners, and make sure we're working together for the greater good.
Awesome, thanks. Miriam, tossing it over to you. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So I am Miriam. I have been with Gwinnett County for about 5 years. On a day-to-day basis, I work with internal and external groups to create community impact events, and that's how I kind of got reeled into the food security initiatives here with Gwinnett County.
Awesome. And then Faye, will you share a quick overview just of your work serving senior citizens at Mending the Gap?
Well, hi again. My name is Faye Josephs, and I'm the founder and executive director of Mending the Gap. Mending the Gap has been around for 10 years, and what we basically do is meet the basic needs of low-income seniors in Gwinnett County. We're currently serving 400 seniors all over Gwinnett, from Lawrenceville, Norcross, Beaufort, all the surrounding areas. What we do is we deliver food, toiletries, personal care items to the homes of seniors, and we also address their emotional needs. We call them, check on them, see how they're doing, have a pen pal program so we can write to them. Before the pandemic, we had an intergenerational program so we can get needs. However, of course, because of the pandemic, we have to pull that program. So now we are doing the pen pal program, but basically it's just to meet their basic needs, engage with them, and also help connect them to other resources in the community.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys for the overview of what y'all are doing. So let's talk about food insecurity, kind of explain what it is to our listeners, maybe talk about food deserts. That may be a term some are unfamiliar with. And I'm going to open it up to you guys and just to share, what is food insecurity?
So food security exists when all people always have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy lifestyle. And one of the things I want to highlight there is the dietary needs of that group. One of the things that we started doing with Gwinnett County is by working with interfaith groups and offering our mobile food distributions, we're really trying to make sure that we're meeting the needs for that particular community. So for example, if we partner up with the mosque, we know to source food that doesn't have pork or other meat items that community may not eat. And we just want to make sure that we're not oblivious to the needs of that community.
Awesome. And Ryan and Faye, for what you're dealing with, food insecurity, kind of what does that mean to you guys and the people you're serving?
Yeah, so I kind of function on two different sides of the county. So I'm in the southwest portion with my job, and then I'm in the northeast portion with my church. So I kind of see, Gwinnett is a very large county with different issues. So up in the northeast, it's more spread out. So we've had to make sure that we have a gas can for our clients when they come and they're waiting in line. We have folks that are running out of gas. They've traveled from a reasonable distance to wait in line to receive the food. And then in Norcross, it's more, it's a pocket of severe poverty. So it's a condensed area where folks are living in hotels, they're living in apartments. 45% of kids in our two 30071 and 30093 zip codes are living below the poverty line. So with us, it's kind of it's two different areas, and they're different, right? But similar issues as well.
Right. And then Faye, working with seniors, food insecurity, I would imagine, there's transportation issues, mobility issues, things that prevent them from being able to get out and get food. What else would you say to that?
Well, for seniors, it's somewhat, it can get a bit complicated. There are access to food for families and for children, but there's a limited access for food for seniors, and saying food, not just food, but healthy food that's good for them because of their health conditions. Seniors are not able to get out, as you mentioned, mobility issues. A lot of them are not driving. If you live in Gwinnett County, you realize there's a lack of transportation, and that's why for us, our services, we bring that to the senior as opposed to them looking for us, so we do deliver services. We find, again, seniors are caring for their grandchildren, and they're already getting low income as it is, and they're taking care of 3-4 grandchildren and also helping their adult children in the home. So, and then another issue that you're finding with seniors is that they're the SNAP program. Yes, the SNAP program is good in the sense I worked for the state for 14 years processing these benefits, but a lot of the seniors that people does not know receive $16 a month for food stamp. And then they don't have transportation. So imagine you're given $16 of food stamp and then try to find someone to take you to the store to purchase food with that for that $16. And then one other issue is a lot of time people just talk about the food but not recognize that there are other needs that the seniors have that's preventing them from purchasing the healthy food, which is why we distribute the personal care items and the toiletries and so forth that is not easily found in pantries. And so we give those out, stuff like incontinent products. It's very expensive. So a senior that's getting a small income, have to make a choice. Do I really pay for my incontinence or pay for my prescription versus like getting healthy food to eat? So there's a lack there of getting access to healthy food that is good for them. And I know that a lot of kids, they provide canned foods and certain kind of food, but seniors that live independently want to be able to cook their own food. They want fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and so forth, which is not found, and that's what we offer to them.
Right. Well, and talk, Miriam, I'm going to toss it back to you. Talk a little bit about food deserts, because for those who've heard, they may think, oh, that's not here in Gwinnett. Like, everybody has access. But just explain what a food desert is and then kind of what we experience here.
So areas that may not have resources to the nutritional foods that both Ryan and Faye talked about, they may not have access to the fresh produce, which is one of the initiatives that we saw in Gwinnett County, and we've created Harvest Gwinnett, which is the community gardens. And through those community gardens, we are able to give back that same produce to those particular communities. So just this year, it was 2,400 pounds of produce from those gardens that was then given back to the community. But one of the things I know Faye touched on is, having that nutritious food. Some people may not know how to even take all the benefits from that food. Exactly. They may never have cooked it, which is why we continue to do our mobile kitchens as well, so that you can have that educational aspect in it.
Right.
Well, and let's talk about what we're kind of seeing. And I know, Ryan, you touched on that a little bit, since you're covering somewhat both ends of the county. But when it comes to especially the past year, we're talking about food insecurity, what have you seen as far as the needs and so on?
So obviously we had an enormous spike that we all know about right after COVID, that March timeframe,
Right. Crazy.
where we all just had to figure it out, right? So that sustained for us this summer. And now it has leveled off, but it's still elevated from what it was before. And I go back to my comment on the 45% of kids living in poverty. Although it has leveled off slightly, that larger issue still remains. We still have, specifically in Norcross, we have that 45% of kids. Statistics show that 4% of them will elevate from where they are below the poverty line to middle class. So what can we do as partners to make that better?
Yeah. Well, and tossing that over to you, Miriam, same question. What are you seeing in this past year and currently?
That there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I feel like we're barely scraping the iceberg, and that there's still areas in the counties that need that assistance. And like Ryan said, that Norcross area, it still needs our help and our assistance to make sure that they're getting that nutritious food. One of the things that we obviously did is make sure that we're going out to those communities. So making ourselves mobile by having these mobile pop-up pantries and just going to those communities, because they said they may not necessarily have the resources to get to us, which is why we need to get to them. But through all of this, all the food insecurity initiatives, we've also learned that those same areas are in needs of other services as well, which is why at our distributions, we've also incorporated other departments to be able to offer those services back to those residents. So for example, I may bring out the fire department with me, and they are going to sign up families for smoke alarm installs. And that's free to all the residents. So the firefighters will come out, they'll give the educational aspect of it, and then they're able to install the smoke alarms for those households. At the distributions, we may also have a car seat check, and the car seat check is for anybody who has a child. Sometimes people don't even know that they didn't utilize the car seat properly, and then it becomes a safety issue. So we're able to, again, get the firefighters to look at those car seats, to check them out. Sometimes people don't know that they're expired. And at that point, they're able to give the car seats to that family. We've brought out Water Resources, who they've discussed their job fairs. We bring out senior Health and Human Services to do senior meal signups. So making sure that seniors are able to sign up for weekly food deliveries or get those senior boxes that they're in need of.
Awesome. Well, and Faye, current real-time issues that you see seniors facing when it comes to food?
Well, with the pandemic, this just escalate the situation for them. One of the big issue that senior faces isolation. Because they're isolated, a lot of people are not aware of these seniors that are living independently at home. And some seniors, unless you ask them, you don't know what's going on with them. Some of our seniors out, we'll go and make deliveries to, they pass away in their house for days and no one knew that they were there. And so because of the isolation issues, now you have the pandemic on top of that, where now because they're susceptible to the virus, so now they have to stay, they're scared, they're not able to go out. And you have like some buildings that we offer services to, they have basically shut-ins so far. You can't come in, and we don't want them to go out, so now they're really isolated back there. And for us, we literally had to fight one of the building to try to bring items in to say the seniors need help. How can we get this food and stuff to them? Another issue is, with what I mentioned before, how they are now taking care of their grandchildren and all that stuff. It's really making that difficult for seniors to afford stuff for themselves when they have to be caring for other family members. Seniors that are getting SNAP benefits, some of them could get out and go to the office to renew their benefits. Because of the COVID, now the offices are closed. That leads to them have to try to renew their benefits on the computer. Lots of seniors are not computer savvy. They can't renew their benefits, so a lot of them lost their benefit as opposed to that. So there's just so many things the seniors are facing because they're not able to get out, able to find where the food are and how to access those food. And if you are not really out there looking for the seniors or trying to search for them, you're not going to know that they're dealing with these issues of food insecurity. And as I said before, a lot of the seniors, there are food available, but the food may not be healthy enough for them, because of their health issues. They can't have the canned food. There's too much sodium in them. It's just all this variety of issues that's going on with seniors.
Right. Well, and we've seen, like we've all mentioned, everybody had to pivot when the pandemic hit, and we figured out some strengths and weaknesses there. But let's talk about looking ahead. And our community has shifted from being reactive to being proactive. So let's talk and help our listeners understand what are some of the efforts that are currently underway, partnerships have been formed, various things we've done to plan ahead so that we become a more food secure community.
So I know the county as a whole is looking into federal and state funding that is available or may be available so that we can continue to create that sustainability. We're also going to continue doing the transportation for our community partners. We're going to continue our mobile food distributions, our senior meal deliveries, our summer meals program, our Gooder pop-up markets, as well as the Harvest Garden Initiative.
Ryan, what about you guys?
I would say the biggest word that comes to mind for me is capacity. Mm-hmm. One thing that we did last year with our Rotary Clubs of Gwinnett County is we helped with the farmers to families distribution. So this is where the government bought the food from the farmers, and then we kind of served as the middleman where a big truck came and we got all the volunteers together, similar to what they're still doing at the county, and sourced it out to the nonprofits. Well, what I learned through that is that there was a big gap in the ability to keep things cold, right? So we were getting this awesome produce and all this good, healthy food, but most of the organizations did not have the capacity unless they were giving it out that day. It was an issue, right? So one thing we're trying to do, so at my church, we bought these 2 40-foot shipping containers that actually functions. One is a freezer and one is a cooler. And at the co-op, we're working on similar strategies, but ramping up capacity so that we can, when Gwinnett County has these produce distributions that they're helping everybody out with, we can say yes, right? We can say yes. The Atlanta Community Food Bank is a great partner. They have an Enable program where you can go to Walmart, to Publix, to Amazon, to places that have food. 40% of the food in the United States is wasted.
Yeah. Right.
So we need capacity so that we are prepared to be able to say yes to donations.
And Faye, over to you. Are there partnerships you've seen throughout this, different things that have efforts to help address this?
Yes, we have been working with Gwinnett County, with the Gwinnett Cares, and getting some of the produce, because before we were purchasing all the produce for the seniors. So that was a big jump for it's 400 seniors. So so that's a good thing for us that we were able to connect that way, and we're now partner with the Atlanta Food Bank and able to do that. We recently purchased 3 freezers, large freezers and refrigerators, so we can, as Ryan was talking about capacity, so we can able to keep those foods, secure those donations, because that's what we had before. People would call us and say, well, we have all this produce and stuff or meat, and we have to say, well, we don't have enough space or whatever. Now we recently moved in March and to a larger space, or a larger warehouse, and now we have those freezers and refrigerator that we could accommodate those items. And what we also did, we partner with restaurants and other business that was offering freshly prepared meals. So we are able to deliver those meals to the seniors in between our regular delivery, so they can have meals that they just stick in the microwave and have that prepared for themselves. So it's working, and we just hopefully that we can work together and help our seniors, because we don't hear a lot about our seniors. We hear about everybody else, but not the seniors. And one last thing is that the waiting lists that agency have for the seniors, the criteria that they have to go through to get assistance. What we try to do is make sure that none of our seniors go on a waiting list, and that's what we've done over the years, is try to eliminate waiting lists. But I understand that there's not enough funding for senior programs. And so agencies are struggling to decide who gets the benefits quicker, and unless they're coming out of the hospital or or they have certain health condition, they don't get bumped up to the top. So then you have this long waiting list for seniors to get the help they need.
Yeah. I love hearing about the different partnerships, though, and how people have gotten creative in various ways.
You have to be.
Thought outside the box.
Yeah. And I think for us, I mean, with the partnership aspect, we got to learn all the key players that are fighting this food insecurity initiative here in Gwinnett County. And, you know, obviously with Gwinnett County government, this wasn't something that any of us probably thought about that we would be doing. And it's great to be able to help our community partners, whether it's with the transportation or providing you guys the boxes so that you guys can go out and do this great mission. It was just this week, actually on Tuesday, I was at a food distribution, and the area that we were in was predominantly Hispanic. And one of the guys goes, "Hey, I actually want to talk to Miriam." And I was like, "Okay, what did I do now?" So he got a translator, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, this is about to be serious, right?" So he's like, "Hey, look," the translator is telling me everything he's saying. He's like, "I am visiting this country. In my country back home, you would never see the government assisting the people. It's not for the people. So it's great to see, like, the county is out here doing these distributions."
Exactly.
And to me, that it was kind of touching for him to even say that, and him to recognize how different it is here in Gwinnett County, and how the Gwinnett County standard is way different than any other area.
That's really cool. And that, he made that effort to go find somebody.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yes, he wanted to tell me, so I thought that was so sweet of him to just mention it.
That's so awesome. Well, kind of along those lines, Miriam, not everyone may know the impact Gwinnett Community Services made toward food insecurity. So what do you want our listeners to know?
You know, that we never took a step back, we never left, and that we're here for our residents and will continue to do so. We're going to continue and provide the Gwinnett standard and embody our mission with providing superior services so that everyone in Gwinnett can thrive.
Love that. Ryan, misconceptions around this topic. Any that you want to address?
A couple come to mind. First of all is that kids, right? So kids is the face of food insecurity. So, and then number two, I would say in our communities and specifically across the U.S., hunger looks different than you might think it does, right? It's not and we talked a little bit about choices, or Faye talked about choices, but it's not the super skinny person, skin and bones. It's you're making choices between food and medication, or food and gas.
Yes.
And what ends up happening is you end up getting the cheapest food, right?
Exactly.
You end up going to the convenience store, or you are eating the dollar menu off of McDonald's. And so it's actually quite the opposite, right? And
more costly in the long run.
right, and it creates that cycle of bad health, poor mental health, the kids struggling in schools, and all the things that we're fighting to help.
Yeah, I love that because it is, like, I even experienced that just especially when the pandemic hit and all the people that were coming through, and some people would be a little judgy, and they're like, "Oh, they don't need food," but you don't know their story.
Exactly.
You don't know their story.
And you have to find out.
Exactly. And one of the things that we learned through all of this is that it's not going to be your typical scenario of what you may think hunger looks like. You know, you, Ryan, you kind of touched on that a little bit, but even at the food distributions or whatever initiative that we're doing, I try to make sure that I let everybody feel like, hey, this is for the entire community. We don't want people to feel like they're in need. Some of the people that are coming through the line are already embarrassed to be in line.
Right.
You know, they don't necessarily want to, they don't want to be there. They don't want other people to know. And so we have to kind of normalize that it's okay for us to get that help when we need it. And that one day it may be us that needs that help. And so it should be normal for anybody to kind of seek out one of the things that I do at the distributions, regardless of which one it is, whether it's the mixed produce or the mobile distributions or our gardens, some of the volunteers, they may be the ones that are suffering, you know, and they will never say it because the person that needs the help will never be the one telling you that they need the help, right? So I, again, just wanting to make sure it's normal and it's across the board. Hey guys, does anybody want a box to take home for your family or your neighbors or whatever? And sometimes, you know, they'll say, no, I don't need it. Or sometimes they will pick it up and they'll say, I need it for my neighbor, knowing that it may be for them, you know, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah. We need to normalize being able to ask for help.
Exactly.
And not feeling ashamed of that.
Exactly. And you know, one of the things, it's touching even till this day. I've been on the receiving end. I come from a family that was immigrants. My parents had 4 children. I know what it feels like to be on that other end. So sorry, I may get emotional and cry, but I know what it feels like. And so for me, like doing these things, you know, I was telling you, Heather, before we even started on air, I was telling you, it's a passion. It's what I want to do with my life. So this isn't necessarily a job, or it's not necessarily me fighting a mission. This is a passion for me, and I'll continue to do so. Because even if we have that, one family that comes through that needs it and it makes an impact on that family, then my job for that day is truly worth it. And so for all of us here, I know that this is a mission. This isn't necessarily our day-to-day jobs anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. That's. Again, you can't ever judge anyone by you have to ask and get to know them and care enough to say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay?
Yes, just make it normal. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay for you to be in that situation. Just because you're in a situation doesn't mean you're going to stay in that situation. I could be rich one day and I could die as a poor person, or vice versa, you know, so you just never know.
Right. Exactly. And as we get close to wrapping up, Faye, you've talked about some of the gaps, you know, when it comes to senior citizens and serving them better. Any along those lines, any ones you haven't mentioned, or opportunities that you see for us to better serve our seniors?
Well, one of the things that we do in our program in addressing their emotional needs, one of the things that you talk about before is about people needing help and is afraid to ask. Seniors can be very prideful because they work their entire life, and then they have to get to the place of dependency on people to take care of them. And so, as you mentioned, Ryan, hunger doesn't look the same on everybody. So you'll see seniors that you think they look perfectly well, and they're struggling to make it. I have a habit of walking around in the supermarket with my carts, and I'm looking into the senior baskets and see what they're buying. And I'll follow them in the store, and they probably think I'm stalking them, which is bad. You know, my daughter says, "Mom, you're like the Oprah of food." But you know, so I walk around and I'm like, they're buying the diapers, and I'm like, okay, she's buying diapers, she needs that. And so I'll offer them a card, and I say, I'm not trying to stalk you or anything, you know, but I'm just letting them know, you know, I'm here to help you, you know. And so, you know, you'll offer them services and let them know there's no cost to you, you know, and just because you need help, just because. We don't want anything from you. We're not going to harass you. And when you get onto our services, it is immediate. And that's one of the things that we need to do is to have the ability to have seniors receive services immediately, as opposed to waiting, because by the time you wait, they're back in the hospital or they passed off. More organizations need to work together to offer different services. You know, okay, you offer food. Okay, what about you offering supplies? Or, you know, just figure out some other way of bridging those gaps of the other things that they're in need of. I know, again, we're talking about food, but if you're making choices to buy other things, then you won't buy the food. You'll see seniors buying a lot of noodles. I'm not sure if you look at a noodle container, the sodium on that thing is crazy. So now they're buying just noodles to eat just because they need to pick up their prescription or pick up a personal care item or some of these things. You know what that's going to look like health-wise for them. And so, you know, we just have to try to let even our officials know there is a real need. This is what it really looks like. It's just not what you see out there, you know, and just to come into the community when it's time to be voted in or whatever and says, well, I just want to take a picture with you and you're doing a good job with taking care of seniors. No, you know, there's more. A lot of times people think about seniors, and the first thing that comes to their mind is Medicare, Medicaid, Meals on Wheels. They're taking care of it, right? No, it goes beyond that. Not all seniors are able to get Meals on Wheels. Not all seniors are getting, if they're getting Medicaid, there's different levels of Medicaid. that they have to pay for Medicare premium, and depends on how much money they're making. Not all seniors are able to afford to go into a assisted living facility, so they have to try to make it on their $800 a month, pay rent, and buy all the stuff that they need. So there's a lot of things that people don't know. So the people need to be educated on what it looks like for a senior and what they have to deal with, and how much is coming out of their small income, and what are the things that they're doing with that small income as far as helping their grandchildren, helping their adult children, and living in extended care. A lot of people doesn't know that there are so many seniors that are living in these motels. You know, all their income is going into staying in the motels because they can't get somewhere
else, right,
to live.
Right.
So it's just a lot of misconception about seniors and what's going on with them. People just kind of just think, oh, you know, nursing home, assisted living, and Meals on Wheels will take care of it. It doesn't. It goes further than that.
Right. Well, that's like a lot of issues. Until it impacts you directly or
Exactly.
indirectly through a family member, you don't pay attention. But I also think here in Gwinnett, I mean, there's always work to be done, but I think we have done a great job compared to others of starting to really partner together
Definitely.
in the past, and especially this past year.
Definitely.
And everybody trying to go, okay, how do we work this together
Yes.
and figure out all of it? Because not one entity can take care of everything.
No, not
So
at
it
all.
takes
We
all of
do
us.
need to work together.
So along that lines, as we wrap up, what can our listeners be doing to help right now with food issues as well as in the long term? I'm going to open that up to you guys.
I feel like this is my shameless plug moment. So
Go for it.
So I'm going to say get on volunteergwinnett.net, volunteer, go into your communities and be a part of some of these initiatives and some of these actions that we're out here doing. And talk to your neighbor, talk to somebody and find out what their needs may be. We're so separated as a community. I mean, and COVID has made it a little bit worse than what it even was. You may not know that the person next door is suffering. You may be aware of some of the resources that you learned of today or that you may know of that you can share. So go into your community, volunteer, and share the information you know.
Yeah.
The one thing I would add to that is I feel like a lot of times as people, we get so caught up in doing these big, bold things that we don't ever get started, right? So one thing that I do in the community, we do this thing called Friday night food fights, where the high schools challenge each other. They make it a big deal. For 2 weeks, they have a food drive, and then we go on the football field and present the winner at the end. And I was driving the truck, picking up the food from a couple of these schools, elementary schools. I was doing the elementary school pickups the other day, and I was tired. I had a lot of other things going on, but I just started thinking about like how many thousands of conversations are happening between kids and their parents about serving the greater good, just based upon getting a can out of your pantry to take to school, right? And so my advice would be, we have a couple superstars that we're talking to today, right? So call them, call your local co-op, take action, right? So it doesn't have to be a big, bold thing. Call your local co-op, tell them what you're good at, and plug in the simple ways, and that'll make a world of difference.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Faye, what about you? What can our listeners be doing?
Oh, yes. Just as you guys mentioned, volunteer, call in, go to mendingthegap.org. Please, we need volunteers. We need your skills. We need your input on how we can make this work for our seniors. You know, the volunteers, when seniors see someone come to their door and knock and drop something off for them, I mean, they're amazed because now they don't have to leave home. They can stay safe. So think about that they're able to stay safe because you just step out of your comfort zone. And as Ryan talked about, sometimes we think about the big things that we have to do. I started Mending the Gap with one senior came to my office and just saying she's using her laundry detergent from the dollar store to wash her dishes. And she's crying. And I thought, oh my goodness. And so I started bringing a little bag of soap powder and stuff to her house after church on Sunday. And then I started doing that with another senior. And then I would tell them, look, you cannot tell my job that I'm doing this, okay? You know, one call in once and I was like, oh my God, no. But it's the smallest thing. And so I said to people, when you go to the store, pick pick up a bottle of laundry detergent. That's all it is. Pick up a 4-pack of toilet paper, and you help them to pay for something else. It's as simple as that. So, a small thing can be a very big thing to someone else that's in need. If you think about that, what you think is nothing means the world to someone else.
Exactly.
So please consider, come on, volunteer with us. Donate to us, do a drive. You don't have to give money. You can go and purchase items if you like to do that. Whatever that you can do, we appreciate it. Again,
Awesome.
look for us at mendingthegap.org.
Yeah, mendingthegap.org, Neighborhood Co-op's website address,
OurNCM.org.
ourncm.org, and give us Volunteer Gwinnett's again.
VolunteerGwinnett.net, Gwinnett County Government. One thing I do want to say is if there are any agencies that may be listening that you are in need of volunteers, please reach out to me. Let me know. We have a large pool of volunteers with Gwinnett County Government. Yes, Faye's raising her hand already, so she is the first one. But we have a large pool. So when you guys are out here doing these food initiatives and you need that extra assistance, please reach out to me. Let us know how we can plug in and help you as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for the Giving Back to Gwinnett podcast. If you would like to learn more about the Gwinnett Coalition or the Community Foundation, please visit them at gwinnettcoalition.org or cfneg.org. I'm your host, Heather Loveridge. Thanks again for joining us, and now go make a difference in your community.